We begin today the Gemara on Daf Yud Amud Aleph, the fifth line from the top of the Yamud. This Gemara is discussing different things about Shimshon. It said in the Mishnah, Shimshon is an example of an individual that experienced midah keneged midah. Because he followed his eyes, so then his eyes were poked out by the Pelishtim, and he had his downfall in that way. So here, the Gemara before we learned on Daf Tes Amud Beis discussed different things about Shimshon. It continues here to speak about what Shimshon did and what happened to him. So the Gemara, the pasuk says, "Vayikra Shimshon al Hashem." Shimshon calls out to the Eibishter. So what happened? Shimshon was captured by the Pelishtim, and they placed him in a big palace, and they placed him right near the two massive beams of this palace, while all the generals of the army and all of the goyim there, the Pelishtim, were partying on the top floor. And then he calls out to the Eibishter and he says, "Vayema Hashem Elokim zachreinino v'chaskenino ach hapam hazeh." Remember me, strengthen me this time. V'inokma nakam achas mishtei einai miplishtim. And I should be able to take revenge of the Pelishtim for one of the eyes that they poked out. Vasipshat, one of the eyes? Rashi here says, one of the eyes is that the schar of the other eye that was poked out, he wanted to keep for Olam Haba. So what did he ask the Eibishter for? What was the schus that he had? Omar Rav, so Rav said, Omar Shimshon lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shimshon said to the Eibishter, Rebbeinu shel olam, zechor li esrim shana. Remember the 20 years, sheshafatati es Yisrael, that I judged the Yidden. V'lo yamarti le'echad mehem, and I never said to one of the Yidden, haver li makel mimokim lomokim. Take my stick from one place to another. I never used anyone to help me in this way. Some say that what this is referring to is that when he asks someone to take his stick from one place to another, and then he would want to judge, so then there could be an issue of shaychad. So he's saying that he was careful with shaychad even to the most subtle degree. That was his chus. Shimshon did all kinds of things, but it's interesting, from everything, dafka this thing, that he didn't ask anyone to help him or to shaychad. That was the schus that he had, and then of course as the story continues was that Eibishter gave him the koyach to break the beams and to kill all the goyim that were there together with himself. Earlier on the pasuk there speaks about before Shimshon was captured. It says Vayelech Shimshon, he went Vayilkat Shleish Meis Shualim, and he took 300 foxes, and then what he did was he lit these foxes, he lit their tails on fire, and he sent them out into their fields to destroy the fields of the Pelishtim. Why specifically did he capture foxes to do this? So Shimshon said as follows: let the fox come. The fox, when it is attacked and it runs away, it doesn't run away, but it backs away in sort of in a crooked manner, and it sort of avoids the one that's coming to attack him. That's how he runs away. So this shul that runs away in this way, v'yifra miplishtim, and he should punish the Pelishtim shechazru b'shvasam. They also backed out of their oath that their ancestor Avimelech took and made with Avraham Avinu, that my children will not bother yours and yours won't bother mine. So over here, the Pelishtim, the descendants of Avimelech, backed out from that shvuah. So therefore now they should get punished for this. Tanya Braisa, we learned about how strong the might of Shimshon was. Amar Rav Shimon, that is Amar Rav Shimon HaChassid. Ben Seifa of Shimshon, the broadness of the shoulders of Shimshon, Shishim Amma, 60 Amas wide. Very, very huge pashut. Hoya, that's how wide he was. Shenema, the pasuk, where do we see this? The pasuk says, Vayishkav Shimshon at Chatzi Alayla. Shimshon was there, this is in Azah, by the Pelishtim. So Shimshon was sleeping there until midnight. Vayakam b'Chatzi Alayla, and he got up in the middle of the night, and the Pelishtim locked the gates of the city so that he shouldn't be able to leave. Vayochaz b'dalsei sharei, and he lifted up the doors of the entrance into the city. Ubishtei mezuzos, and the two sides of the door. Vayisoim im abriach, and he went with them. He lifted them up with the briach, which is the bottom of the door where it locks closed. Vayasam al kseifav, and he placed it on his shoulders. He uprooted it. He removed it for him to be able to leave the city. Now Gemiri, we have a tradition. The ain dalseis azab pchusais mishishim amma. The width of the opening of the doors of Azah is not less than 60 amma. So if he lifted them and placed them on his shoulders, we know that his shoulders from side to side was 60 amas wide. Pasuk there says, after he was captured, Vayihi Teichen B'Veis Asurim, and he was there Teichen, Literal translation of Teichem means grinding. He was working, grinding. Teichem beveis asurim. What does this refer to? Rav Yechanan says, Rav Yechanan, ein teichin el lashon aveda. The word teichin here actually means avedis. That he was having relationships with the women that were there in the prison. We find this expression in another place. Titchain la'achar ishti. And so over there we see that this refers to a relationship with the women that he had. Malamed. So what that pasuk about Shimshon teaches me is shekol echad ve'echad, all the different women there from the Plishtim, hevi lo yesishtei lebeisa asurim, brought their wife to him in the prison, kedei shetisabra imenu, so they should become pregnant from him, and they should have beautiful, powerful children like him. Omer Rav Papa said about this, Hainu Damri Inchi, this is what people say, Kamedishasi Chamra. A person that is a wine connoisseur, people bring to him good wine to taste. Kamerifuke Gride Divla. A person that works in the field and he always eats vegetables, so people bring to him different kinds of vegetables to taste from it. The things that a person is involved in, that's what's brought in front of him. Rabbi Yechanan said about this in connection to this point here. A person that is mizana, that has relationship with others, so then his wife is doing the same. While he's doing what he's doing, she's doing the same. Shenem, as we see in the pasuk, im nifta libi al isha val pesach rei hafti, that if I am persuaded, my heart is persuaded on a woman, and I'm making friends with others, then the pasuk there says, titchan la'ache ishti va'aleh yichrun. So too, his wife is also busy doing her avedis while he's doing his. This is the saying that people say. He is with kari. Kari is cabbage, and it's a bigger cabbage. And the wife bebutzini, and she's by the small cabbage, or maybe squash cabbage. But the kari and butzini is the same thing, same min. One is just larger and one is smaller. The point is that if whatever he's being Isaac in, she's being Isaac in the same thing. Rabbi Yechanan, back to Shimshon. Rabbi Yechanan said, Shimshon don es Yisrael. Shimshon judged the Yidden ka'aviyim shebashamayim. The same like the Eibishter, their father in heaven judges them. Shenema, the pasuk says, don yodin amoy ka'achad v'gomer. So the Gemara is darshaning this, that don judged the Yidden ka'achad, like the Eibishter himself, that's one. Rabbi Yechanan also said about Shimshon, the name itself, Al Shmoi Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu Nikra. His name is called on the name of the Eibishter himself. Shanem, as the pasuk says, Ki Shemesh U'Magem, the sun and its shield is Havaya Elokim. It's the Eibishter, Havaya Elokim. So therefore Shimshon, which is Shemesh, is the Eibishter's name. So the Gemara says on this, so Ela Meyata, if you're saying that we could learn from this pasuk in Tilim, that Shemesh is a name for the Eibishter, so if so, lo yimacha. So Shemesh is the Eibishter's name, it should be like all the names of the Eibishter that are not allowed to be erased. So therefore the Gemara corrects it, Ella, what he meant to say is Me'en Shmoi Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's Me'en, it's somewhat of the Eibishter's name. And it's related to the Eibishter, what the Eibishter does. Ma HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Megan al Kaloilam Kuloi. Just like the Eibishter protects the entire world, Av Shimshon Megin B'Doira El Yisrael. So too Shimshon, being a son and its shield that protected in the entire generation with his judging the Yidden and his koyach that he did, also Begashmi, with his power, he protected all the Yidden. Vav Rabbi Yechanan, one last point there regarding Shimshon. Rabbi Yechanan said, Bilam chige beragle achasaya. Bilam was limping with one foot. Shanama, the pasuk says, Vayelech Shefi, and Shefi means that the limb, his foot is out of place and he was limping. Shimshon was a chige b'shtei raglav hoya. He was limping, both of his feet were not healthy. Shanama, as the pasuk says, there by the bracha for Shevet Don, which goes on Shimshon, that came from Don, Shvifain alei oirach. Shvifain is Shefi twice, that both of his legs were not positioned properly, and therefore he was limping with both of his legs, and nevertheless, the point there is, with all of this, Shimshon was still as powerful as he was, and he helped the Yidden both Begashmias and Beruchnias. Okay, that's the conclusion of the story of Shimshon. Okay, the Gemara here that goes from Shimshon into other things. Let's see. Taner Rabbanon, we learned in the Brais, Chamisha, Nivru, Me'en, Dugmishal Maila. There are 5 individuals that were created in a way that they had something which was similar to the way it is by the Eibishter himself. V'kulam laku behem, and all of them ended up themselves getting punished with this itself, with this power itself that they had. Shimshin b'koichai. Shimshin had an unusual power, Gashmias, similar to the Eibishter. Shaul b'tzavore. Shaul's neck was bedugma similar to the Eibishter. Avshalom b'saresh. Avshalom had unusual hair. And Tzidkiah, one of the Malchi Yisrael, be'enov, with his beautiful eyes. Asa beraglov. And Asa, also one of the kings, had unusual feet. Rashi says, or legs. Rashi says regarding the Tzidkiah, and that he doesn't know, and same thing regarding Asa. He says you don't find in Psukim anywhere that it says that he had beautiful eyes and beautiful legs, but this is a tradition that he had from his Rebbe. Now, Shimshon b'koichai, we see that Shimshon had this tremendous power, and then he got punished with this. T'chsiv vayasar koichai meyolav, that the Eibusha took away his koyach from him, and that's how he got punished. Shaul b'tzavarai, Shaul had his neck that was beautiful and that was unusual. And then it says, Vayikach Shaul es achereb, vayipol aleh, Shaul fell on the sword, and it means that he got killed by the sword that went on his neck. Avshalom b'sarai, Avshalom had unusually beautiful hair. Kedibin on the Meimar, come on, as we're going to learn later over here in the Amud, that it says about the beautiful hair of Avshalom. Tzidkiah be'einov, Tzidkiah had beautiful eyes. The chsiv es einei Tzidkiyo iver. Okay, so it doesn't tell us, we don't have a source, like I mentioned before, we don't have a source for his beautiful eyes, but it says that he became blind. Asa beraglov, the chsiv rak le'es ziknasai chala es raglov. When he was old, he got sick with his legs. What does it mean he got sick with his legs? Rav Yehuda said, Amar Rav in the name of Rav she'achzasai padgere. He got the sickness that was called padgere. What is this sickness of padgere? What is it like in the legs? It's like sticking a needle into the live flesh of the person. That was the pain that he had in his legs. How did Rav Nachman know what this padgere is? Some say that he himself suffered from this sickness in his legs. Tradition, he learned from his Rebbe about the pshat of this illness that the pasuk says there. A third pshat, Said Hashem li'reyav, the secret of the Eibishter is for all those that fear him. Ubrisay lahidiyam, the Eibishter notifies the tzaddikim, the pshatim of the pasuk, and that's how he knows what this padgere that Asa HaMelech had. Why was Asa punished in his older age? Because when he had Yidden come to work, so he went and included even the Talmidei Chachamim to come and work for him. Shenema, the pasuk says, "V'hamelech Asa hishmiya es kol Yehuda." He made it known for all Yidden. Ein naki. There's no one that's left out, no one that's clean from this to come work for him. My ein naki. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav afilu chasen mechadrei v'kala michopasa. Even a chasna and a kala also had to come to work for him. There was a war then, and there was things that had to be done. So he even took a chasna and a kala to come and work for him. So for sure, Talmidei Chachamim, he forced them to work for him, and therefore he was punished at the end of his age and at the end of his life for this. Okay, right, back over here to one more point about Shimshon. This is the lashon that it says, quoted already before in the Gemara. What happened to Shimshon? Ksiv, the pasuk says, "Vayeret Shimshon Timnasa." Shimshon descended; he went down to Timnas. The Gemara before said it means begashmis, but it also means beruchnis. That's the beginning where he had a yerida. Oksiv, but the question is, the pasuk in Chumash, when it speaks about Tamar, what does it say? Hine chamich oila Timnasa. When Yehuda was coming to Timnas, and then Tamar was told that your father-in-law, Yehuda, is going up to the city of Timnas. So the question is Timnas a place which you have to go down to? Is it in a valley or is it on a mountain? Rabbi Lazar answers, Shimshon, Shenizganaba, Shimshon that became disgraced in this place, Ksiv ba Yerida. So the Torah uses the term Yerida, that he went down spiritually. Yehuda, Shenis Alaba, but Yehuda that had an Aliyah in this place, Ksiv be Aliyah. So therefore, regarding Yehuda, he had afterwards Tamar gave birth to Peretz and Zarach, which are the ancestors of Mashiach. So this is a tremendous aliyah that Yehuda had over here. So therefore, the Torah uses the term aliyah. Rav Shmuel ben Achmeni says you don't have to answer that it refers only beruchnis, but even physically it could be explained. Shtei tumnois hayu. It's two different places. It's not the same place. One is in a valley going down, and one is on a hill going up. Of Papa also begashmis, the answer is Choda Timna Hava, Havoy, that is. There's one city Timna. The Asi, well, basically the city Timna is positioned right in the middle of the slope of the mountain. So the Asi Mahagis, you read it. If you're coming from the top of the mountain, so you go down to come to the city of Timna. The Asi Mahagis, if you're coming from the bottom of the mountain, so you're climbing up the slope of the mountain, so Aliyah, so it's going up. The Gemara gives an example, Kagayim Vardunya Uvevari Vishuke Denarish. Like these three different cities in Bavel, but they're also positioned in the slope of a mountain, and depends which direction you're coming from, if you're going up or you're going down. The Rebbe brings this in a Sikha Barichas in the Parsha over there, in Parshas Vayeshev, where the Torah speaks about this, and there the Rebbe brings from a vart from the Friediger Rebbe, that this vart here, that it says, is true b'chlal about the life of a person, that the life of a person is always on the slope of a mountain. And there's no such a thing of a person just settling in one place, and he's not moving up or down. It's either a person is going up or is going down. But to stay in one place without any movement, it's not possible. Either a person is going machayel al choyel or chas v'shalom yidechi al dechi. That's the nature of life of a human being in this world. And you learn it over here from this place, this city, that depends with which direction you come from. You could either be going up or going down, but staying in one place is not an option. Sagt the Gemara weiter, Omer Rav Alexandri. Malamed, what this teaches us. Oh, sorry. Okay, Mr. Pasuk here. So now the Gemara will discuss what it says, Benigeh to Tamar. Since we brought up the city of Timna, the difference between Shimshon and Tamar, so we go now to what happened to Tamar here. Vateshev v'pesach inoyim. So the Pasuk says that she sat, where does she sit? V'pesach inoyim. What does pesach inoyim mean? Simple pshat of the Pasuk is she sat in the fork of a road in a place where everybody passes through, so everybody should notice her. She wanted that her father-in-law Yehuda that came there should notice her. Now, Amar Rav Alexandri says a different shot. Malamed, this pasuk teaches me, Shaholcha v'yashvala bepischay shel Avram Avinu. She came and sat at the entrance of the tent of Avram Avinu. Makaim shekol einayim tzayfeis l'roisai, a place that all people look there and they would see her there. The tent of Avram Avinu was built in that area, and so she went there because people were accustomed to coming there. Avram Avinu, which invited all the guests to his tent, so therefore everyone will notice her. Abchanan Amarav Makaim Hu Sheshmoi Einayim. Bepesach Einayim refers to the name of a place. Einayim. She went and sat at the opening of that city, that place. B'cheinu Oimer. We see in another pasuk it refers to this Einayim as a place. The pasuk says Tapuach V'ho Einom. So Einom is the name of a place. Abshmuel ben Achmeni Omar. Another pshat what Pesach Einayim is. Shanosna Einayim Lidvareha. She gave Einayim, she gave eyes, or she gave sort of a sign to the words that she was saying. What happened? Tamar was there, and Yehuda encounters her, and Yehuda was wondering who she is, that is. Kishetava, when Yehuda demanded her, the Yehuda wanted to have a relation with her on Malos, Yehuda wanted to make sure that he could marry her, that she's kosher. So he says to her, Shema Nochrisat, maybe you're a Nochris, I'm not allowed to have a relationship with you. Amrele Giyairis Ani. No, I'm a Giyairis. Shema Eishes Ishat, maybe you're an Eishes Ish, you're married already. Amra Lei, so she said, no, Pnuyani, I'm not, I'm single. Shema Kibul Beich Avich Kedushin, maybe your father already accepted Kedushin for you. Amra Lei, so she said, no, Yisaimani, I'm a Yisaima. So Rashi actually says that what this refers to is that she was saying she got married to Yehuda's sons, right? To Er and Oinon, and she was really the daughter-in-law of Yehuda. So what she was telling Yehuda is that the marriage to your sons wasn't the real marriage Minatayra, because who married me off? Not my father. If my father would have married me off, so then it would have been a real marriage. Then I'm really your daughter-in-law Minatayra. So then one of the erayis is a person's not allowed to have a relation with a daughter-in-law. But what he was saying to Yehuda is the marriage to your sons was a marriage of my brother, my mother. Minatayra, it's not a marriage b'chol, so I'm not really your daughter-in-law. So therefore I'm mutter to marry you. Shema, further, Yehuda asked her, Shema Tmeya'at, maybe you're tummy, meaning maybe you're tummy with the tum of a nida. Amralei Tahirani. So she said, no, I'm Tahir. So that's the Pesach Einayim. She gave an opening with all these simonim. She explained to him. She told him, I'm mutter to marry you. Weiter, now, since it was mentioned here, one of the pshatim about Tamar was that she went and sat by the tent of Avram Avinu, so the Gemara brings about this tent of Avram Avinu. So the pasuk says, Vayita Eishel Bever Shava, that Avram Avinu planted a tent in Be'er Shava. What does this mean? Eishel, actually. The pasuk says the word Eishel. Doesn't say clearly a tent. What does Eishel mean? Amar Reish Lakish says, Melamed she'asa pardes. Avram Avinu actually planted. It says planted. So planted meaning he planted an orchard. V'nota by kol mine megadim. And he planted there all kinds of trees with delicious fruits in it. So people should have what to eat. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemia argued about this, that Reish Lakish just said. Chad Amar, one said, like Reish Lakish said, pardes, that it was an orchard. And Chad Amar, pundik. Another says, no, that it was a pundik, it was an inn. He planted a tent as an inn for people on the road to be able to stop off there. So the Gemara says, Bishlam Elaman Amar pardes. It's understood the opinion that says that he planted an orchard. The pasuk says he planted. So planting refers to trees. Elaman Amar pundik, the one that says that it's a tent for an inn, my vayita. How does the pasuk use a term of planting regarding a tent? So the Gemara answers, we find it in the Torah. There's another place where it says, vayita ole apadna. He planted the tents of his palace. So the expression of planting could be used regarding a tent. When you position the tent in the ground, it can be used even regarding a tent. Rashi here brings that according to the pshat that it refers to a pundik. So what is eishel? Eishel means it's a Rashi Tevis of achila shtia levia. You feed, you give food and drink, and then you accompany the person from the home. That's the eishel. Then the pasuk says there by Avram Avinu, after he planted this tent, vayikra sham b'shem Hashem kel olam. He called out Hashem's name there. Amar Reish Lakish, so Reish Lakish says, and this is Reish Lakish according to his pshat, right? Reish Lakish says it refers to a tent. So Reish Lakish says, Al tikri vayikra. Don't read the pasuk simply as saying that he called out, Avram himself called out Hashem's name. Ela vayakri. Vayakri means he made others call out Hashem's name. This teaches that Avram Avinu brought all the passers-by to call out Hashem's name. How did he do so? After they ate and drank, they got up to bench and thank Avram for the food. So Avram Avinu tells the people, did you eat from me? You're eating from the master of the world. Thank, praise, and bench the one that said and created this world. That's how he brought everybody around him to come and bench Hashem. Right? So the pshat, in other words, of Reish Lakish is when you learn the simple pshat of the pasuk, and it says Vayita Eishel, and he planted a tent, and then it says Vayikra b'shem Hashem. He called Hashem's name. What's the connection of the two parts of the pasuk? So Reish Lakish is explaining the connection. That's how Reish Lakish knows Al Tikri Vayikra Elu Vayakri. I believe the Marsha explains this. Why are we changing the simple pshat of the pasuk? Why not Vayikra? Why Vayakri? The answer is because in the simple pshat of the pasuk, there's no connection of the fact that he plants a tent and the fact that he, Avram himself, calls out Hashem's name. What does he need a tent for to call out Hashem's name? Elamai, the tent was to invite others to call out Hashem's name there. Then there's the famous pshat that the Rebbe said more than once. I think it's also the Rebbe mentioned this in the first Maim of Basi Lagani, Tafshin Yeralef. The Rebbe mentioned the Al Tikra Vayikra Ela Vayakri, and there the Rebbe explained the rule. And any time the Gemara says Al Tikra Vayikra Ela Vayakri, what's the Gemara doing? The Gemara is taking away the simple pshat of the pasuk. It's not what it means. What it's telling you is, if you want to understand how to apply the simple pshat of the pasuk, Chazal are telling you, read it Vayakri, and if you'll fulfill the Vayakri, that will give you the ability to fulfill the simple pshat of the pasuk, which is Vayikra. So what that means is, if a Yid wants that he himself should have the power to call out Hashem's name sincerely, and it should really resonate with him, the way to accomplish that is Vayakri. Come and be mashpia on others. Have others call out Hashem's name. That itself will help you fulfill the Vayikra to call out Hashem's name yourself. That's how the two pshatim go together. Okay, now going back to Tamar. So what does it say about Tamar when Yehuda saw her? Vayira Yehuda. Yehuda sees Tamar. Vayachshaveh l'zayna. And he considered her to be a zayna on the side of the road. And the pasuk says, why? Ki kisasa panel, because she covered her face. So the Gemara asks on this, Mishum, the kisasa panel, chashva l'zayna. Because she covered her face, that's what causes Yehuda to think she's a zayna. Why so? On the contrary, a zayna would be someone that would expose herself for people to see her. Amar Rabbi Lazar, so Rabbi Lazar explains what this means is not that she covered her face then. Rather, shekisas apanea bebeis chamia. She had covered her face when she was by her in-laws, when she was married to Yehuda's sons, and she was living by her in-laws. She had covered her face then, so Yehuda hadn't seen her then, so he didn't know who she was. He didn't recognize her, and that's why he didn't know it's Tamar, and therefore he thought that she was a Zaina. Amar Rab Shmuel ben Achmeni, Amar Rab Yonasan. Now, based on this, Rab Shmuel ben Achmeni said in the name of Rab Yonasan, Kol Kala Sheitznua bebeis chamia, a daughter-in-law that acts modestly in the house of her father-in-law, of her in-laws, like Tamar did, Zoiche v'yotzim mimena malachim neviim. She will merit and shall have children that will be kings and prophets. Minala, and where do we learn this? Mitamar. We learn it from what happened to Tamar. Because Tamar here had children with Yehuda later, and then from her came both kings and prophets, Nevi'im. Nevi'im, the Pasuk says, Chazain, Yeshayahu ben Amitz. Yeshayahu, a Navi, was a son of Amitz, and we'll see soon that he was a descendant of Tamar. And Malachim, David, and Malachim from David HaMelech. David HaMelech was a descendant of Tamar. Now, V'Amar Rab Levi said as follows, that David Zeh Mesayris b'Yedenim Aviseino. The following is a tradition that we have from our ancestors, that Amitz, the father of Yeshayahu HaNavi, which was Amitz, and Va'amatzia, and Amatzia, which was one of the kings that was a descendant of David HaMelech, Achamavu. They were brothers. So if Amitz and Amatzia were brothers, so that means that just like Amatzia, which was a descendant of David, and David, of course, was a descendant of Yehuda, which gave birth to the children from Tamar, so too Amitz, being a brother of Amatzia, came from Tamar. So Tamar gave birth to Peretz, which was then the ancestor of the Nevi'im and Malachim. And this was all b'schus what? The fact that when she was by her in-laws, she behaved modestly. It's all b'schus of tznius. Okay, then the pasuk explains and says what happens when they found that she was pregnant. So they thought that she was mizana with someone, and that she's chayiv misa. So the pasuk says he moitzes. What is the literal translation of moitzes? Moitzes could be translated or literally means that she's found. Right, but the question is, he mitaitzis mi bayale. The pasuk should have said that she's being taken out, that she was being taken out to be killed for this nus that she did. So why does it say maitzis, that she was found? Amar Rabbi Lazar. So Rabbi Lazar says that really what happened over here was, what happened when Yehuda had a relationship with her? So she asked Yehuda to give her simonim. She asked Yehuda for his seal, for a thread, and for his staff, to have simonim that she should be able to prove that she had a relationship with him. So now, when she was being taken out for the einish, for the punishment for what she did, so those simonim that she had, so now la'acha shenimtzu simoneha, so after those signs that she had from Yehuda, so they were found, and she wanted to bring them to prove who she had a relationship with, ba samal, which is the Yetzer Hara, and Verichakan, and he distanced it from her, he took it away from her, that she shouldn't be able to prove this. And then Ba Gavriel, Malach Gavriel came, Vikirvan, and he brought it back close to her, that she should be able to prove this. And Hainu D'chsiv, regarding this incident here, the pasuk says in Tilim, Lam Natseyach al Yoinas Elem Rechoikim, LeDavid Michtam. So what's the meaning of this pasuk, and how is it connected to Tamar? Amar Rav Yechanan, so Rav Yechanan explains, Misha shenisrachku simoneha, when the simonim that she had to prove that she had a relationship with Yehuda, they were distanced from her. Nasis kiyaina ilemes, she became like a yaina, like a dove that's mute, that can't talk. That's what it means here. Yainas elem, that she was like a mute, that she couldn't prove her point. And because of what? Because of Rechaikim, because of the simana that were removed from her. And then when the pasuk says afterwards, LeDavid Michtam, what that means is, Sheyatza mimena David Shahaya Mach V'Tam L'Chol, that David HaMelech, which is called Michtam. Michtam is a combination of two words, Mach, he's humble, V'Tam, and whole, for everybody, in front of everybody. And so that's what this pasuk is speaking about. That eventually, what happened, as we'll see soon in the story, Yehuda came and Yehuda admitted that it was him that had a relationship with her, and then David HaMelech was born from this. Davar Acher, another pshat, what the meaning of the word Michtam means. Michtam shahaisa makasei tama, that the makkah, that he was born with a makkah. What does that mean? He was born with a makkah. Sheneilet kishulmal. David HaMelech was born already with the bris done. That's what Michtam means. Dovaracha, a third pshat, michta means kishem shebekatnusai hikten atzmai, just like in his young age, or rather it means before he became king, so he was humble. Eitzel misha gadol mimeno lulmed Torah, and he was humble in front of the one that was greater than him to learn Torah from him. Kach bigdulasai, even when he became a king, he also was humble to learn Torah from one that was greater than him. Continuing there in the story by Tamar, the pasuk says, "V'hi shalcha chamia." So before she was taken to be killed, so she sent to her father-in-law Lamar to tell him, "Leish asher elaloi." She took those simanim that Yehuda gave her, and she said, "Here, the ones that these simanim belong to him, anoichi hara. That's who I'm pregnant from." Why didn't she send a message to tell him clearly it's you? Why didn't she identify him? Why is she saying it in this disguised manner? Amarav Zutra bat Tovye Amarav V'amri lo Amarav Chanan be'bizne Amarav Shimon Chasida, the name of Shimon Chasida, of Amri lo Amarav Rab Yechanan Mishum Rab Shimon ben Yoichi. Noyach leila Adam. It's better for a person sheyapel atzmai letoich kivshan eish, that he should be ready to fall into a furnace of fire, like over here Tamar, her einish was going to be sreifa. Va'al yalbim penei chaveri berabim, and he should not embarrass his friend publicly. Minalam, from where do we learn this? Mitamar. We learn this over here from Tamar, that Tamar was ready to die and not embarrass Yehuda. The pasuk says, "Haker no." She said to Yehuda, "Haker no, recognize the one that gave this simanim to me." What's this expression of haker no? The haker biser. When Yehuda sent the kisainis of Yosef, when he made it dirty with the blood, he sent it to his father, and he used this expression, haker, recognize who this kisainis belongs to. Haker no, kisainis bin chahi, haker bisrul. And also here, Yehuda himself, he was notified about this, that Tamar had a relationship with him, with the same expression of haker. Haker no, she said, please, recognize this. Haker no lemi. No, with the term no that she says, ein no ala lashon bakasha. She begged of him. Amra lei, she said to him, bebakasha mimcha, I beg of you, haker pnei bayracha, recognize your creator. In other words, nobody else knows about this. It's just me and you. If you want, you could deny this, but recognize the Eibusher that knows this. Va'al talim einecha mimeni, and don't conceal your eyes from me. Vayakir Yehuda recognized Vayemet Sotah mimeni, and Yehuda said that she's more righteous than me. She's right. Regarding this, that Yehuda admitted this, Yosef shekiddush shem shamayim b'seiser. Yosef sanctified the Eibusher's name in private. Because Yosef, with the story of Potiphar, when he held back from an Aveda, that was in private, that he was Mekadosh the Eibusher's name. Zacha, he merited Vaisifu lo yayis achas mishmoy shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So one letter of the Eibusher was added to his name, as we see in Tilim, D'chsiv Eidus b'Yehoseif Shemai. So the Eibusher added the letter Hey to his name. Yehuda, Shekiddush Shem Shemayim B'Farhesye, Zacha, Yehuda sanctified the Eibusher's name over here publicly, so he's merited V'nikra Kulei Al Shmei Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And his entire name has the full name of the Eibusher in it. Even though Yehuda got that name from birth, way before the story happened, but Mefarshim explained, maybe it's the Marshayr that says that his mother Leah said, Hapam Oida Savaya. So really his name should have been with an aleph, Yehuda, not with a hey, should have been Oida with an aleph. How did his name become Yehuda? It was a Ruach HaKodesh that his mother had, that to insert the entire name of the Eibusher in his name, because of this, that he's going to in the future sanctify the Eibusher's name. When Yehuda admitted and he said that she's more righteous than me, Yotza Baska v'Amra, a Baska came out and said, Ata hitzalta Tamar, Ushnei banem and Naor, you Yehuda saved Tamar and her two children from the fire. Chayecha, I swear in your life, Shani Matzel b'schuscha, that I will also save in your merit Gimel mibanecha, 3 of your descendants Menahor from the fire. Man ninu, who are they? Hananya, Mishal, va'Azariah. When they were thrown into the fire, they were saved. Sotka mimeni, when he says the term Sotka mimeni, mino yoda. How did Yehuda actually know that this is the case? In other words, as Rashi says, true, he knew he had a relation with her, but maybe she had a relation with someone else. How did he know that the pregnancy is from him? So the answer is Yotzasa Baska v'Amra. It's because the Baska came out and said, Mimeni yotzu kvushim. From me, from the Eibusher, comes out hidden things, that the Eibishter had a hidden plan over here, that from this pregnancy should come out the kings, the David HaMelech, and Mashiach eventually comes from here. Right? This is the famous thing that you see how Mashiach comes into the world always in a very, very unusual manner, both in this case and also regarding the story with Lavan, with the Light and his daughters, which is where Rus Amayavia comes from. Also, the descendant Mashiach comes from there. And the pasuk concludes after the story, in the end of the story, V'lo Yosef oid l'daita. What does V'lo Yosef mean? Oma Shmuel Saba, Chamur de Rav Shmuel Bar Ami, Mishmei de Rav Shmuel Bar Ami. So basically, Shmuel Saba says this in the name of his son-in-law. Kivin Shiyada, now that he knew her, that he was married to her, Shuv le pasak mimena. Lo Yosef over here does not mean that he didn't add, but on the contrary, it means that he didn't stop his marriage, his relationship with her. Ksiv hacha, how do we know? Here it says V'lo Yosef oid l'daita, or Ksiv hasam, and then by in Parshas Vaschanim in connection to Matan Torah it says Koil Godal V'lo Yosef, a very loud voice V'lo Yosef that did not stop. So we see V'lo Yosef could also mean the connection that he had to her. Okay, we're going to stop over here today. The Gemara continues afterwards with the stories of Avshalom.